Hello, everyone. Of course, I'm still excited. Everything that we make great is great, right? Yes, everything that we make great is great. But the reality of our today is our world is being destroyed at what we know it to be. But we don't have to be afraid. And we have to know this. We don't have people that can figure it out for us. Because I've been watching TV when the parts that I was awake for 2 days, and nobody understood. Not so many of the leaders that they were questioning were not able to answer the question. And the worst part about it was, all they could say is, "I don't know." But what I could say for us as a people, and it's horrible that we have to explain this every time we horrible that we have to explain every time we come on and say something, but we are not counting out the world when we talk about us. But we have, as a people, as black people, we black Americans, we have to have a plan. We can't wait. First of all, these people, we are not in their plan. They're mad because their constitution is falling apart. Well, we don't have to be mad at that because we was never a part of that. We were never meant to be a part of that. But this nation is going to have to be, in my point of view, this nation is going to have to be reestablished. So we're going to begin now reestablishing us. And tonight I have a phenomenal, I don't use that word often, but this lady is phenomenal. I have a phenomenal guest tonight, Astrid Ross, and she's gonna come tonight, and we're gonna talk about. I really left it open because it's the guest's conversation, but we're gonna talk about making a we need to be thinking about at this time, the things that we need to be planning for. And one thing, all of that family stuff that we got going on, we better call our families, have a meeting, and talk about it civilly, because we're going to need one another. But we'll be right back with our guest, Mrs. Astrid Ross. See you in a moment. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious, a freedom ride where we the people gather to build ourselves, our family, our community, and our nation. For the sound of America for Progress has reached critical mass. Understanding that we must put aside our differences to focus on the greater good. This is a place of collaboration to rebuild and restore our nation. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious. Hi, how are you today?
Good evening. I'm great, great. Thank you for having me back.
I want to apologize. The internet has been out in my area. It didn't come back on until the middle of the night. So you'll hear some rebounding. I'm so sorry about that, but this is a very important night. Tell us what's on your mind, but introduce yourself to those that don't know you or have not watched the other tape. Because I sent this one out special.
Okay. Well, my name is Astrid Ross, and I'll give you kind of my short bio. I'm a mother of 5 adult children, grandmother of 2. I have been in the career of education for the past 30 years. I currently serve as the principal of a pre-K through 8th Montessori school. I also run a mental health nonprofit and working as a clinician in behavioral health right now. So a lot of overlap in education and mental health. I'm a recent graduate of Emerge Georgia, which is a program that was started by our Vice President Kamala Harris that recruited minority women to run for office. And I'm currently running a mental health nonprofit and a business of political consultancy using the expertise that I have of over 3 decades in education and mental health.
It is so glad to have you. And I did tell the audience that I believe that you're a phenomenal woman. And I don't give that title to
Thank
everyone.
you. For one to another, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we want to talk. You know, we were actually having a conversation last night to expose a little bit to the audience. And I was planning on coming today to talk about Vivacious Speaks and who we are and where we're going to go from here. But last night, the urgency came up when I was speaking with Ms. Ross about another program that we were doing together. And tonight had to be. Ms. Ross, could you give us a little foundation for tonight's conversation?
Well, I think the tone is set everywhere here in America right now and possibly all over the world. We are, and I'll did a little research on the conversation we were talking about, so I wanted to kind of preface our conversation. As of right now, today is Wednesday, June 18th. We are 89 seconds away from nuclear war on the doomsday clock. If any of y'all remember the idea of what doomsday clock was, that was a metaphor timepiece that was created by atomic scientists in 1947 that represents how close humanity is to global catastrophe. So that kind of sets the stage because everything is built pretty much off of that preference of where are we right now in our nation, where are we in our diplomacy and our foreign policy, and that's the macro that kind of sets the stage of what we need to talk about with our own communities right now, what we need to be preparing for.
Yeah, my daughter and I, we were talking the other night, and I said, well, Chris, we never wanted her to move to this area because the education that children are getting where they live would not equal here. So we were talking the other night. She said, "Mom, if any of this happens, we're gonna pack up and get to Georgia. We're gonna pack up and come." I said, "We're gonna squeeze right in here." And first thing I want people to understand is that this is real. And I want another thing I want people to understand. When I go out into our communities, or when I go out into general areas, I can get interviews. But when I went out Saturday to Mo, it was thousands and thousands of people. I really don't believe they had all of the numbers from the people that was out there. I'm gonna say it like this: those people do not talk to me. And I said that to say I did not have one interview. You have seen it. I have pictures of the crowd. Trying to decide I'm gonna do it. Video of the crowds, but I could not get one interview from them. But when they're protesting, their world has fallen apart. And if their world have fallen apart, our world comes under their world in their eyesight. And in reality,
Right.
so we are here tonight, Miss Ross and I. We are here tonight to make us begin to think. We can't come out of this. What are you gonna do if they say shelter for bombing? We have never had war on our land, but we have never had a president that didn't have a dog on food. This man can't make a sentence make sense, nevertheless. And this may sound disrespectful, but this is really, we gotta face this reality. Nevertheless, with a paragraph. His own country is falling apart. The military, the last time was it yesterday or the day before, when he tried to call America, the military out on the people, and the general said, no, we're not doing that. That is not how it goes. Finally, people are standing up to say, I don't care about your title. We have bigger things to think about. And right now, I understand football season is coming up, and we have a football pool coming up ourselves. And I really believe that, boy, if we can keep this world together, I believe my boy gonna be a Heisman winner. He's super. But guess what? Right now, we gotta think about saving us.
Yes.
Miss Astrid, when you told me the other night, I don't know, you didn't tell me. It was on your page. That's what made me call you. You said, I don't know if y'all remember history, but everybody, I don't know the words you said, but you could tell us. Everybody better go fill up their tank with gas.
Yeah. 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 Because they're bombing the oil fields and we don't make gas in Georgia. So, if we don't know foreign policy, we better catch up really quick, very quick.
Could you tell us about some of the foreign policies that, because look, foreign, most of our people don't know American policy because we think it doesn't matter. Can you talk about some of that?
Well, one of the reasons I feel is an educator, because I'm a Grady baby. I was born right here in Atlanta, and I'm a product of Fulton County schools, and I can say that civics, government, history, and geography were our worst subjects. We hated social studies. Now there's this huge push for STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. But social studies has always been our worst subject. And there's a reason why it was. It was designed that way. Because if you keep people ignorant, then they will not have the tools to govern themselves. So this is not why we're dumb. It was by design. And a lot of that information, even if you study civics and government in America from the Department of Education, kept simple things like African history. Things like, what happened before the slave trade. We already are looking at it from askew. But when we talk about war, there's a plan for war. There's a history of war. But what I didn't want to talk about tonight is what our historical issues are of war. I wanted to kind of interject a new idea, because this is one of the things that bothers me so much. Again, we work with children, and of course in the behavioral health space, and you think that we have the ability to think for ourselves, but we don't. We're following a playbook. We are following something that has been written not by us, by Western colonial ideas, and we can't think outside that box. But guess what? There's some of us who can think outside that box. I don't know if you'll call that unpatriotic or anti-American, but I think that my great-great-great-grandparents would also have a problem with the way this country is treating other people, because it feels familiar to us. One of the challenges and one of the things I wanted to, this one quote kept coming up on my social media feed. All war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. And that was, I forgot who the quote was. I'll cite the sources later. But the way that hit home is that we can't think outside of war, strife, get back. And you don't have to know foreign policy to know things like, we have sayings in America that became policy, like we don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't back down in the face of adversity, and nobody ever asks, why not? Because all of us have some type of faith, and our faith tells us to turn the other cheek. We've had tons. I'll share some research on some of the things that are peaceful in their nature that teach us now how to govern ourselves, because civics and government is about governing ourselves right up until the point where someone disagrees with you or doesn't give you what you want. So in that idea, it is a conflict based. This is conflict based governing, because as long as people do what you tell them to do, as long as they agree with these ideas of America is the greatest. We're not the greatest. We're the greatest in mental health issues. We're the greatest in the worst healthcare system on the planet. We still don't have the metric system. We're 27th in math and science, and we could say that's anti-American. But as an American, I want better for my nation. But I know my nation's philosophies are not where they should be to put us in that great status. So we need thinkers. We need thought leaders. We need agents of change. That doesn't make you un-American. That doesn't make you unpatriotic. That just makes you smarter than the old playbook that they keep pulling us into. So if we don't have these conversations, our next generation will be just like the last few generations. We're going to war ourselves into non-existence. And this war right here, this one we're doing, we finally met a formidable opponent. This is not to be played with. When I made that comment about the doomsday clock, this is the closest we've ever been to complete extinction as a human race because of our failure to think as animals. Even the animal kingdom has compassion. Even animals show that they can coexist. We ain't doing that real well. And that's a problem. And that's a problem. And those that know and can see what is going on need to speak out. We need to be the ones who lead the conversations because there has to be an opposition to war. There always is another choice. You can put that gun down. You can be a compassionate human being. You can go right the wrongs that you put on other people. That's an option. Just because we don't want to negotiate doesn't mean that you can't negotiate. Just because you want to be the winner doesn't mean that there can't be two winners. This idea of a win-lose system, this America is a win-lose system. There always, in that ideology, there always has to be a loser. And America never wants to be the loser. But we will be the loser. Every time we go to war and we tell another country that they can't do what we are the only country on this earth have done, which is drop a nuclear bomb on innocent human beings, then we've lost. Because in my mind, if that happened to my mom and my family, I'm like, you're a hypocrite. If I did that to my kids, they'd be like, you're a hypocrite. I can't have it, but you had it and you did it wrong. And you're trying to tell me now how to do it. So that's, we're not done. We're not done. We sit under it. We talk about it on social media, but nobody's brave enough to go up on the minbar and say it. Nobody's brave enough to say, you know what, we're not doing that. But those before us that were brave, they weren't met with conversation. They were killed. The Civil War, the civil rights movement was a humanitarian movement. There are many humanitarian movements going all the way back to when the colonials came here and Native Americans. You had Native American tribes who lived in peace and harmony, not amongst themselves or amongst their own native groups. They lived in harmony with nature. We came over here with this is my land and I'm going to take this manifest destiny. We've been doing the most since the beginning. I don't say we, because we were brought over for a whole different reason. But the America's idea of our existence is now in peril. And I can't say that we didn't do it to ourselves.
And I want to say that I wish that, it hits hard. The word you just gave, it hits hard. And I wish that I could say, no. But you know what? It's yes. And we, as a people, as a black people, have suffered more of that.
Yes.
Than any. But what I stopped myself from saying it, but I really want to say it. What I hate the most is when we adapted that rejection of people into our own self and into our own family. People say, slavery, but that no, slavery is. There was a time when we were the richest people on earth.
Yes.
And they destroyed it.
Yes.
And then they destroyed us. And now our families, we're even putting all over Facebook. Right now, just because people born in the same blood don't make a family. I think that's saddest. That's the saddest thing that exists. And as my introduction tonight was, let's start there. We can't expect other people to do us right when we're treating each other like we're treating one another.
Right.
I'm thinking of my friend, which is right. She was right, and I want to make this known in public. We were at the march, it wasn't many of us, but we were at the march. And then everybody left the march. I had to go to work, I wasn't there. And they marched down to Piedmont Park where they had the Juneteenth celebration. And she was all upset because they didn't come in. Because the protesters the protesters just left and did not come in to share our celebration. I said, I think that was horrible. They were right there, even if they would have walked through the park and bought a drink. And she was like, all the young businesses. I want to say first that it could have been done differently. That's number one. Number two, we have to prepare differently.
Yes.
Because we will support other people's businesses and won't support ours. We can be selling the same thing, and if it's something I had not experienced it, I would not be saying. But we have to learn to support one another.
Well, I think this strife is taking us to a whole nother level. I think it's taking us outside of we need to do right by our own race when human race is in peril. So it's, again, I'm working in behavioral health and right now. And when we talk to people who feel so alone and they feel that they have no one, I have to remind them, there's 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion people. That's not by mistake. That's not an accident. We were put here to learn how to peacefully coexist. And those that have done that successfully, there's tons of communities and generations and races and ethnicities that have peaceful policies and constitutions that include everyone. But we, our warmongering country, are failure to think, failure to act. But it's not necessarily a failure because they ain't fail. Because they winning in their playbook of hatred, weaponizing the Constitution against its own people, and just being outright, who raised you? Who raised you? That's the question I want to ask. When I look at some of this stuff, sometimes I can't, I definitely can't listen to Mr. That holds that position right now. I can't. It makes me sick because at first I used to think he was playing dumb. It's not dumb. He's not dumb. It's a ruse. It's a smokescreen. He's put there to hide what's going on behind the scenes. We're just thinking he's some old imbecile that don't know nothing, and yeah, he does. He does. He chooses to put the face of ignorance in front of us so that we can sit there and say, oh, he's so stupid. What is he doing? What is he saying? You know what he's doing. Taking our mind away from what we need to be focused on. And that was the steal. And then that was the redirection of all these funds. So right now, while we're looking at things like the Diddy trial and worrying about some insignificant stuff that don't affect us in our lives, our country is falling apart. And humanity is 89 seconds away from doomsday clock. So the conversation needs to be had. And I'll go one step further because this is not a conversation that's being had a lot anymore after the election. Once we lost what we felt was the presidency, we no longer feel that we got a dog in this game or there's anything else that we can do. Now, I applaud everyone who used their constitutional right to protest because protesting was more than just showing your voice, okay? Number one, it was showing that statistically, the protesters outnumber the leadership, okay? That lets you know there are hundreds of thousands of people that don't like what you're doing. And when we talk about, hey, we're not comparing apples to oranges. We're comparing in government, the ones who are leading this, driving this little bus, these people can outnumber you. So you're talking about doing this, doing that, doing this and that other, and these people are showing you their opposition. That's number one. Number two, it is still in protesting, is still us showing civility. Okay, it's still a part of something of structure that we can civilly go out and show our displeasure, our opposition. What happens when we don't protest and people just start burning stuff down because we got the numbers? That has to be a fear of theirs. But we're not organized in a way where we're saying, okay, they can say we're going to take the Constitution, and they're doing that behind the scenes while we're getting outraged and him stumbling over his words and stumbling up airplane steps. Instead, the Republicans are getting states together. They're staging a constitutional coup. They're trying to get enough Republican states together so that they can break the Constitution. They're already doing it. They don't honor it. So if the Constitution is not being honored, why are we still holding on to it? Why are we not having the conversation? Okay, we're going to have a constitutional convention. Let's break it. Let's break it. It ain't work for us no way, because we all want to be at the table to rebuild. Okay, we need to be having these conversations, because if freedom of speech doesn't work for us, if the Constitution can be weaponized to kick American citizens out of this country, it ain't working for us. Yeah, I want it to be broken too. We need to be looking at something that is more humane before we let this thing run us into a brick wall. Because the money they've stolen, they'll be underground bunkers somewhere while they've already got the country going around, because they're still getting rich off of selling weapons, about instigating war. We have to see what happened behind the scenes. This is why people got to catch up to civics and government. That's why they kept us dumb in history, government, civics, economics. Because if they're dumb, we can pull the wool over their eyes. And they just did. They just showed us January 20. They stole the election. They're using the Constitution, which we are using to hold and bind our society together. It is used in a legal way, which is why we need to contest it. The Constitution needs to be contested. So if it can be legally used to be weaponized against us, it don't work for us. It's not ours. Never was. We had to fight just to become humans. At one point of the Constitution, we were 3/5 of a human. Right. So it ain't working for us. So why are we still holding on to it? Let's break it. We need to have a conversation now about coming back to the table with things that work for all those people that were in those streets protesting. All of them. Every one of them that had an opposition to the core values that we supposedly hold dear, because they not holding it dear. They, habeas corpus, oh my God, you can just snatch somebody up. That's human trafficking. Kidnap them and kick them out of the country and put them in solitary confinement or put them in overrun jails in third, second world countries. Our Constitution could do that? I didn't even know that. If they could do that, oh my God. Think about the implications on the humane side. Think about how smart we could be, how humanitarian we could be. Yes. Come on now, all of those civil rights leaders that came before, they had visions. Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King came with a dream, and we still dreaming about it. But that dream was beautiful because it would have used the Constitution for the right reasons, for everybody to have a seat at the table. So if it can be used in the opposite direction to be weaponized against us, then where are the thought leaders to help us see how well it can work for us? Or we need to close the holes, because if the holes and falling in the gaps mean that you can pull my neighbor out of his house and his wife and kids now have no income, they got to go to a homeless shelter. You've got ICE going to schools to pull children's parents away. Yeah. You've got children sitting in courts, immigration courts, 6, 7, 8-year-old children trying to defend themselves against some stuff they don't even know. That's our Constitution. So yeah, it's broken, and it's been broke from the beginning. So that's the conversation I really want to have.
This is a good conversation, but all I'm asking is that we as a people hear this and mend us together, because together we are the strongest people on earth. Yes. And we can drive the world. And I didn't say this nation, we can drive the world with the power and intelligence that we have. So whatever it is that let's talk about. Great job.
And that's, we need to, number one, sit people down and let them know how dire this situation is. Cut off TMZ. We don't need to be looking at social media. Get off of Cardi B and her new boo. Stop following Tiana Taylor. And we need to talk about this 89 seconds. because
Yes.
all that's going to burn. All of it. Because they are poking a bear. They're poking some big bears. Russia came out today and said, oh, you go after Iran? We got Iran back. China not saying it, but China is Team Iran. Pakistan, Team Iran. We don't know that because we don't know civics and government. We don't know foreign policy. We weren't taught world history. So we don't know how this battleship game is lining up. And it don't look good for us. But guess what? He don't care. They don't care. Because they've already robbed our government to the point where they'll be safe underground bunkers. They'll have, spaces for their families to shelter in place. We're the ones sitting here, boo-boo the fool, we don't know what's going on until bombs start flying in the air over our communities. Okay? And that will be a rude awakening because we're championing that. We're watching these two, and again, these are Jews versus Muslims. Muslims versus Jews. But all the children see is death and bombs. Like that song says, oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light. We like to play that song until them bombs are flying in our air. We ain't been there yet, but we about to be there. And they are driving us to this position. And more than just getting out into the streets and waving flags, we need to be sitting down planning. We need to be talking about exit strategies. We need to be talking about rebuilding. We need to be talking about legal ways and protective ways to protect our communities. Because this is getting ready to get real bad, real bad. And we're not just talking about gas prices going up. Because if this thing continues the way it's going, then we're talking about the fate of humanity at risk right now. And we've never been this close. And that's with an imbecile at the helm. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is it dumb or is it evil? Or does it matter? Does it matter? And that's a real question. I don't want to question whether he's dumb or evil. I want to be able to say there's a future for my grandson. I want to be able to say that we will be at the table being able to rebuild with the building blocks of humanity and the things that we know are best for everybody to coexist. Because the Constitution is as easy to weaponize as it is, still had something that could have brought us to a different part. We could be somewhere better than we are right now. But again, I thank him for showing us the fallibility of it. I thank him for showing us how bad it can get with the same document. Same thing. Been there the whole time. They've been playing it from that strategy. Same playbook, whole time. We sitting here still under the Constitution, going to work, stopping at stop signs, doing all this stuff, but yet our neighbors are being kidnapped and everything under the sun using that same document. So I'm questioning it now. I have a problem with it.
Yeah, when I saw the little children sitting in court, the adults didn't look much different from them though. When I saw them sitting, do you know what the Constitution is? Do you know what an attorney is? The little children was like, no. They had no clue. But they're putting these babies out.
Yeah.
They're putting these babies out in a place that they have never been.
Yeah. Those children are traumatized.
Who would do that?
Yep. The Constitution of America.
Who would do that?
Yep.
No, I don't believe that's they're totally acting against it. And I think that we don't have time. I'm like you, we don't have time to fight this. Like we have let them do too much and go too far to say we need to handle it like this. We're gonna have to raise up and say no. We have to, and this is gonna sound bad, all against the country and all of this. But if we're gonna have a country, we need to take that man down. It's not working. It's not working.
No, it's not.
It's not working when you can go to school and take little children. And if you want to see it, I did put the video up on my Facebook page, Nanny Val. The little children on the witness stand. I did get to visit. I did get to see when they had the little children in cages. It was right out South Georgia. They're not beyond putting these little children in cages with a piece of ball they call in a blanket to keep them warm.
Yep.
Nobody's there to take care of these kids. These kids, all children must be nurtured. These children are places where they can't be nurtured, where they can't get a hug. I have adult patients sometimes that I say, do you need a hug? When somebody comes in a mental health unit and they're falling apart, sometimes a hug can bring it together so that they can at least think.
Yeah. That there's a human in their space presently. Yep. That there is some sort of humanity. Yep. And that's unfortunate because the thing is, if the Constitution wasn't broken or fallible as the way it is, Democrats could have stopped this. Democrats could have gone in. They're sitting in court. Court is a part of the judicial branch of the U.S. government. It is built and hardwired into the Constitution. It was built that way for them babies to sit there. They found a way under the Constitution to put them babies in jail. Now, there's no way in America can we do that to our own children. We can't do that. If you go and they catch you on camera even looking at a child a certain kind of way in an educational environment, you are out of there. And the charges will be pressed against you, as it should. But you mean to tell me that these kids are sitting at a court of law? Court of law? And they're sitting there testifying under a structure of judicial branch of our government? Democrats can't stop it? Can't nobody go in there and save those kids? They just sitting there telling us what they can't do. Because why? It's U.S. sanctioned. This hatred, this violence against us is sanctioned by our Constitution. Yep. It's built that way. Yep. And that's the implications of what can come next. All we have to do is go far enough back in time. We got a timeline of American history. We were here. We were those babies long time ago. We were the ones that they were breeding now to work. We were the ones that were a part of the labor force before we even got an education. That was legal under the Constitution. So if we don't start questioning the structures of evil, I remember what our president said, this is the axis of evil. I was like, really, dude? Because we ain't doing so well ourselves on the world stage. Everybody else evil but us? We're the only ones dropping the atomic bomb and everybody evil but us? At what point do I start questioning that? Because the legacy I want to leave my children is not that I didn't know, that I had no clue, that I made no attempt to make a change. I can't tell my grandbabies that. I can't tell them that. Because our parents gave us like national debt. We got global warming. I remember we were coming through high school, going into college, and be like, oh, why did our generation before us leave us this? You know what we're going to leave our kids? Death and destruction. And we're going to say, we didn't know how it happened. We had no clue of what to do. All we knew is that we can get out and walk in the streets with signs and protest. Where are our thought leaders? Where are these agents of change? We need them. We need them. We need them, and we need them quick, fast, in a hurry.
So what do you think is some of the things that we need to be doing as a people, meaning Americans?
Right. So there's some things that we can do. Number one, we need to get our thought leaders together. We need to have a micro and a macro. We need to be working on all levels, grassroots and legislative. You know, for those who are in these spaces of politics, they need to be looking at 2026 because there's opportunities to get in and block some of this Republican evil from the legislative position in 2026, including in our local governments. That's number one, but that's on the macro. And the micro, we need to start stockpiling food. We need to start getting resources together. We need to start calling our families and saying, look, we need to get together, not pull apart, because we have this Western colonial attitude that once we get 18, we get out the house and we run away from our parents. We don't have a culture of consolidating families and building our resources and using each other as a resource. But we need to knock that that white man attitude out our heads. We need to get our people back together. We need to build and compile and collect and collaborate in our communities. Bags of rice, bottled water, dry beans, barbecue grills, all the things that get us back to how can we survive when this thing goes amok. Yeah, doomsday preppers, that was a big show during COVID because we thought humanity was leaving then. During 2020, people was learning how to can vegetables and stockpiling weapons and all type of stuff. And they were thinking, oh, the world's going to end. And then we got back to normal, or what we thought was normal. And now here we are less than 5 years later when humanity was getting ready to be eradicated by a pandemic. Here we are killing each other. We're getting ready to annihilate each other. It's amazing that we're at this place. That just a few years ago, we were all trying to get along and make sure we all survived. Except for those same people now who was out there talking about kill grandma so we can get back to work. So they've been there. We know that. And we let them get the power over us. So we got to get them out of power. We got to get them out. Now, I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about what just happened this past weekend, going to legislators' homes and killing them. Telling people that they no longer have a right to oppose your evil against them. Telling people that even under this Constitution where we're supposed to be we the people and we have a voice, we can't use our voice. Tear gassing the community for going out to protest. Because that's what happened to some of the communities. And it's funny that the only community that I saw on the news that was being tear gassed was the ones over there in Chamblee off of Beaufort Highway, which is our Hispanic community who was already being traumatized by what's going on right now. Everybody else was allowed to protest. Why DeKalb had to get in there and tear gas them? Why? And ICE showed up. ICE wasn't downtown at Peabody. ICE was on Beaufort Highway. Yep. Yeah, we see it. We see it. We see it. And we have gotten too afraid to call it out because we got just a little bit more than our great-grandparents had. We think we made a come up, and I have to remind people too.
We have something. We really don't have anything.
We have nothing.
We don't have anything that counts that they can't call down.
Let me give you a stat real quick because this puts us as black folks in perspective. As black people, when it comes to wealth in America, okay, this thing comes up. We had in 1865. As a people, black wealth was at 0.5%. 1934, we had 1% of the wealth. 1979, we had 1.9% of the wealth. 2019, we had 4% of the wealth. And then, of course, we made a dip and struggled more than anybody else. And in 2021, we were at 3% of the wealth. How we doing? We're not doing so well. It ain't working for us. It has never worked for us. Things that don't work, you change. You don't get complacent in it. So we're so complacent and we think we're doing so well just because we can go out and buy a Dooney and Burke and we can go buy some Levi jeans and pay top dollar and go to a Beyonce concert as we were talking about. And that we got something. We ain't got nothing. So what do we have to lose? What do we have? These few little pieces of property that people think they have that in one generation will be gone. One generation that you got it. But you don't even have wealth to pass on to your families. So what are we afraid of?
And our families don't value. We're giving away all of our land and property. We're not caring for it. We're not paying taxes on it as a community. When you think of Africa Town as a community, they take care of each other and themselves. If we come together as a family, if this was the family home, let the families get together to take care of it.
But
But
again,
want to
coalescing.
sell them and get all the money from everybody else. What are we doing?
Right, right. So we need to start looking at other structures right now. We need to be approaching this in multifaceted ways. Again, looking at things from a legislative position because we do have very dynamic black and brown people and Caucasians who are not with this playbook. And we need to be now at the head of this conversation. This is why it was a phenomenal program that I was in with minority women having a conversation. Because guess what? How many wars of women started? I'll wait. Not one. Not one. But we end up. Exactly. We're the cleanup crew. I'm tired of cleaning. Right. That's right. We're always a cleanup crew. We always mend the sick and the injured, and we help get them back so that they can tear it back down again. I'm sorry. I'm tired of that. We're too close. Y'all keep taking us to the brink of extinction. We need women, the mothers, the empaths. Like NDRE had a song says, it's time for some feminine energy because masculine energy has us at 89 seconds to doomsday clock. And however people want to interpret that, we need some healing, not strife. We need some conversations, not anti-diplomacy. They don't know what diplomacy, America should never use that word, ever. We don't know what diplomacy is. We don't practice diplomacy from our federal government. It is not. Capitalism is about diplomacy. Capitalism is we don't negotiate. We are the best. You ain't gonna tell us. And if you don't back down from the nuclear weapons that I got, I'm gonna take you out. That sounds like some bully kid playground stuff. The bully kid. And the bully kid need to be put down. Dude.
And the worst part about that is he gave it to the people who was that same speech to the people who were supposed to be our allies. Yes. If we go to war tonight, we have offended every ally, everybody who would back us up. He has offended.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what we're rolling into.
To be our friend again, we have to have that head going. We don't have a friend in the world.
Mm-hmm. It's not just him, because he had a following. He's got a following of people that can't stand us. The people who built the White House. You gonna look at me and tell me I don't deserve to be here? The people who are taking care of your children, who are fixing your food, who are cutting your lawn, who are your neighbors, who are leaders, who are community members, educators, bankers, and you tell me they have no right to be here?
And
they have no right to be here.
When you cry. Right. Who wipes their tears when they cry? We know because we never.
We know because we used to do that.
Wipe your tears when you cry.
That's right.
We hug you when there's no one there to hug you. You know, some nights when I'm working, I work a different job sometimes, and I'm working and I'm taking care of people that I know hate me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I don't feel anything because this is who God created me to be, and this is the job He gave me, and I'm going. But I think you crazy for hating me. You can't even get your hands to your mouth, and I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm. Racism is a mental illness. We have to look at them as deficient in their mental capacity. But you don't let them drive the bus. That's the other thing. You don't let, there was a book that we said, don't let the pigeons drive the bus in pre-K. There was a whole series of books why you don't let your most incapacitated, cognitive incapacitation does not lead the line. They go to the back of the line. They're the people we need to take care of. And I think if we don't see that, because of Western ideals and the colonialism, we look at them as superior. You got black folks out there trying to straighten their nose, lighten their skin, and thin their lips, while they out there trying to increase their lips, get BBLs, and look and darken their skin. And they are inferior in their cognitive abilities to look at mankind as a whole. They are mentally deficient. Racism is a mental illness. And if you lead from a platform of leadership as a racist, I see why people looking at us like that. You got countries looking at us like, what they got going over? Boo-boo, what y'all doing over there in America? You got third world countries looking at us like, what's going on? You got countries telling us, y'all can come on over here. Y'all come on over here with us. I know y'all didn't like us. Y'all thought y'all was better than us, but y'all leaders gonna lead y'all to doom and destruction. Y'all come on over here. People looking at us in shame and disgust. Best country on earth, but we 89 seconds away from doomsday clock. So something ain't right. And I know it ain't me, because it's clear as day. I can hear my great-grandparents. I can hear my parents. I can hear our ancestors saying, we told y'all. Told y'all. Told you. We told you. Now what? What do we do with it? Because I'm watching news on 6 different platforms every night to get information about what's going on. And what did I miss? I drove home for 30 minutes. Are bombs flying in the air? Can I go home and fry some chicken? What's going on now? You know, I'm trying to play catch up. But we got to do more than that. We have to do more than that.
Right now, I'm hopeful that our people are working together, like you said, stack up the food, families come together, make a family plan, bring immediate unity. Because when we are able to work and get immediate unity, when we come out with a plan for everybody, it's going to be easy to implement. Astrid and myself, we're going with 2 other women. We're going down to Gully, August. We're coming up with a plan for our people. We're going to be the Black Mother Nature. We're coming up with a plan for our people that we're going to distribute across the land. At this time, it's 4 people. And we're going to do that, and because we need that.
Yes.
4 great women thinkers. We have nurtured the white man even through slavery, even while in slavery. We nurtured black men. We've nurtured his broken wife. We've nurtured and raised his parentless children because they were present to make them parents. We parented their kids.
Right.
We Sergeant Grizzle Grits says, "Speak the truth, my sister." That's right. We and I'm going to be sure to publish this so people can hear it. This is good. We have nurtured, then we had to come home and raise and nurture our children, and we had to take care of our men. So nobody can save America like women of color can today. And we're going to have a meeting in August. We're going down there. We're going down to the gullies because that was our place of power in America. And that's the reason we chose that place to go. We're going to our place of power.
Yes, for you all who don't know.
It was Astrid idea. Let's go there.
Yes.
So we're going there to our place of power. Our place of power is not the White House, and it's not Washington. We can't look to them to save us. But again, if this nation is going to be saved, it's going to be saved by women of color, and we're stepping out of it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so for 2 things, just for you all to do a little back research on Sapelo Island, is actually a piece of land that is still held. I have to check, with the lawsuit, and the federal government was trying to take the land, or the state government was trying to take the land for eminent domain as a state park, to take it away from the indigenous Africans who still own that last piece of land right outside of Savannah called Sapelo Island. It is a beautiful place. We have a slave cemetery there on that land. Our ancestors that were slaves are buried on that little piece of land. Little ferry ride outside of, about 30 minutes outside of Savannah, holds so much history, and so does Savannah. Savannah still has slave ports. You've got plantations all up and down one of the main streets. You have a cemetery full of Confederate generals and slave owners, and the history is still right here in our state. We have to be reminded of that. We have to, because we have not made any gains since then. None whatsoever. The second thing is I'll start putting on my Facebook page things about that families and communities need to do. 89 seconds away from doomsday clock, we need to be prepping. We don't need to be sitting here watching
You give
CNN
your
every night.
Facebook page so everyone can, and I'm
Yes.
gonna put the links on my page. I'll share it.
Yes. It's my first and last name, Astrid Ross, on Facebook. We'll start putting up things that people need to do in the micro, conversations that need to be had, getting liquefying funds, stockpiling food, reaching out to communities and your family, and making sure that we're ready. Because who says we're better than anybody else right now who's got bombs flying over their head? Who's to say that's not going to be our reality next week, next Friday, tomorrow? And we're not preparing because we still think this is the greatest country on earth. We're still thinking that bombs can't fly over our heads because we haven't seen them. Because he's trying to make them fly because he's poking the bears. And these are some bears with claws.
And now, as a nation, we had a different strength. We have both.
Yeah.
We don't have that strength. We are not. We don't have the fear for the world.
Right.
America don't have that fear. We have fallen apart. We don't. We don't. They don't have to fear that.
Right. Right.
And I want us to understand it like this. We're not over the Twin Towers. We haven't gotten past the bomb that fell on the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
So if war comes to our land, where shall we be?
Mm-hmm. We got a rude awakening from the people that we call the evil enemies. They're like, how dare you lecture us on nuclear war? Because you're the only ones who've done it. That was a slap in the face, but you know what it was? It was a wake-up call for those who didn't okay the dropping of that bomb. And our history shows us that our America can do the most evil thing, never apologize, and just keep right on moving. We're products of that. We ain't got a reparations yet, an apology. We were wrong. We had to fight for everything we got. That's how they do. So we know how it's going to go.
Ready to take it away, they took it away from us.
That's right. That's right. And they'll do it again.
Auburn Avenue, right here in Atlanta, was one of the richest streets in America.
Yep.
And when they didn't want us to have it,
They'll burn it to the ground. They will burn it to. They have given us the playbook. There's another playbook. Constitution ain't the only one. They have shown by example. But we just sitting here calm, protesting, going back home, stopping at stoplights, doing everything that a citizen should do when your country don't value you. They don't. They do not. You can't value human life and put 6-year-olds in a court of law. There's no value in human life anymore. They showed us that. I'm not saying that. I'm not being unpatriotic. I'm watching the news. I see a baby fighting for his life. Where's the humanity in that? Because I was told, and I'm held to the laws of protection mandated state reporter as an educator. 3 decades I have protected and educated children. And not just black and white kids. Children from everywhere. I'm a champion for the underserved, diverse populations. And I have to remind them, look, we're talking about these laws and things, but you have to look at how America really does it. It's one thing to say what the books say, but we in a lab. This ain't theory no more. They're showing us that they don't care about the book. They don't. In the lab, they do what they want. These people were peacefully protesting and they tear gassed them. And I'm still trying to figure out why. Why was that the only community that got tear gassed? When they had their constitutional right to protest a government that they don't agree with. Thought that was all right. Yeah. Look at the example. Don't look at the book. Look at what they're doing. And then they're holding you to the civility.
I want to say that this conversation is a must-have conversation. I know it's hard. I know we don't all agree with everything that's said, but we all must know this. When I was at that rally on Saturday, and I saw it was very few black people, It was hundreds and thousands away. I said, if they feel this threatened,
Yep. Yep.
we are much worse off than
Yep.
what we see right here today.
Yep. Yep.
And when we reestablish this nation, we will not be on my.
Mm-hmm.
Those thinkers must come together. We're going to begin, like I told you earlier, we're going to begin to do this. Stay tuned to Vivacious Speaks because we're going to have a series coming up soon. Stay tuned to Nanny Val and Astrid Ross on Facebook. If you're not her friend, I'm going to share everything that she puts out. But we have to defend ourselves. But like our sister's saying, we have to defend ourselves in love.
Yep.
Okay, Miss Ross, what do you want to leave us with today?
3 words. We the people. We are the people. It's time for us to take our country back, and for the first time ever. That's all
Yes.
I got. Simplicity.
That's
Plain,
a whole bunch of
simple.
power right there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, keep up with us, stay in tune. Thank you so much, Miss Ross.
Thank you.
Some of that was hard, it was hitting me hard, but you know what, it's so real.
This, yeah,
You know,
I'm
what could
grandma.
I
It's
say?
real talk.
You know what
It's
I'm
real
saying?
talk. It's real
What
talk.
could I say?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank
see you guys soon. See you guys next week. Don't forget Sunday we have Brianna Arnold special release on Sunday Facebook. My it's a very informational night. Very informational tonight. Thank you, Miss Ross, again. And look, see you soon, girl. Don't step off
See you
from
soon.
us. Vivacious Speaks, the new American Revolution.